Hello and welcome to Transparent with Tina. I am Tina Marks, your host. Today's guest has sold over more than 300 television projects, executive produced nearly 50 series and a dozen films. He was a senior VP of the TLC channel, president and CEO of Three Ball Entertainment, which is one of the world's largest production companies with hits like The Biggest Loser, Bar Rescue, Master Chef, Extreme Makeover, the weight loss edition. He produced and directed his first documentary, Why I'm Not on Facebook, which turned into a podcast. He writes a monthly column for Forbes, and he is the author of the 3-Minute Rule, which I just got done with. You don't want to miss this interview with Brant Pinvidic. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome, Brant. How are you today?
I'm absolutely fantastic, as always.
So great to have you here. I'll tell you, that introduction was a little, I say that, I've said that before, but I think yours is one of the longest introductions that I've ever had. And you know, the more that I started researching you, the more I was like, oh my God, maybe I should push this off till tomorrow. I didn't realize there was this much more. It's just like, it was like that can of worms. I mean, the more I opened it up, the more there was. So
yeah, I've been doing a lot of crazy stuff. So I don't know, it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, for a young guy too. So why don't we start in the beginning? So you're from Canada. We were just talking about that. What part of Canada are you from?
I grew up in the west coast of British Columbia, a little island, Vancouver Island.
Oh, okay. I lived in Vancouver. My ex-husband was actually from Vancouver. So, okay, fantastic.
So I was there for many years, and then I moved down to get into television. And, you know, the Canadian system for an entrepreneur is definitely a struggle. It was like that every day. It's not the same. It's very difficult. It's not welcoming. It's a difficult process. And I struggled with it. And it was like the day I moved to the United States, to Los Angeles, it was like a light switch went off. And it was like, oh, I've found my people and I've found where I was meant to be in life. And I mean, honestly, everything, every day from that moment on got better. Everything, every year got better. Everything just kept going better every day. So I love this country.
Did you go to university?
Yeah, in Canada.
Say in Canada. Here they say college, but yeah.
Yeah. Everybody stay. We all stay local for university and college in Canada.
Okay,
so it's not the same culture. So.
You came.
And then I came down here
directly to Los Angeles. Did you know what you wanted to do?
I mean, I wanted to find success in something. I was not driven by the entertainment industry at all. I just thought it was a good idea. I thought I had an interesting idea for a TV show after running bars and nightclubs for a while, and so I just wanted to do something that I could be successful at and find a way to make a real living. And so when you find that kind of success, or when you find something that you're good at, all of a sudden you like doing it. And it was this sort of perpetuating thing that happened year after year. I fell in love with television. I fell in love with the creative process. I fell in love with selling television shows because I was kicking ass at it. And so when you're, when we were in Canada, our best year between my wife and I was $41,000 we made. That was basically all her. I lost most of the money I ever made on any of my businesses, and then you're here in the United States for 5 years and you're making 10 times that, and everything in the world is better. And it was just magic. It was magic being here.
Well, yeah, it almost sounds like magic how you just kind of got into the entertainment business, because a lot of people do move, especially to Los Angeles. Obviously, it's the entertainment capital of the world. So how did you get your first job in the entertainment business?
Well, what happened was I had thought of an idea for a television show back up in Canada, and I spent my own money on it to try to make it because I thought it was such a good idea. And that is a very bad idea, and I do not recommend doing that.
I've already done that. I know.
So I couldn't sell in Canada, couldn't get any traction with that. I had to learn sort of the hard way. That's not how Canadian television works. I had a producer friend that knew somebody who knew somebody down in the US, and I just begged them to take a meeting because I thought you have to see this. And so they did, and I didn't have enough money on my credit card to pay for the hotel for the entire time I was there, the 7 days. The 7-day flights were the cheapest, but I couldn't afford the hotel for 7 days on my credit card. And when people here saw the amount of work and energy and effort and how much thought I had put into creating the show and laying it out, because I couldn't afford to finish the show. So I had to show people what I had done, and I laid it out. And when they saw that, they were like, whoa, this is fantastic. You could probably do this to other shows. Come on and work for us. Right. That was an attitude that I'd never experienced before in my life. The Canadian experience of that is, what are you doing? This is stupid. Why would you do this? This makes no sense. Nobody does it like this. This is dumb. And in the United States, it was like, whoa, nobody does it like this. This is amazing. You could probably do that. And NBC called my agent and said, hey, I don't know where that kid's from. I don't know what he does, but we got to get him doing that on some of our shows. Let's hire him.
You're kidding. That was like right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. It was a crazy experience because I was running around taking meetings, and then, because in Hollywood, what happens is if you have a project, you call the next level up producer. So if you're a D+ producer, you call a D level producer, a C level producer, and they call a B level. So people would take the meeting with me. They'd see this and they wanted to get it. So they'd call their buddy at the higher level production company and say, hey, I found this. And they try to wedge themselves into it. So the next thing you know, I had like Jerry Bruckheimer calling and Dick Clark. And it was this whole thing, right, for this one project. And that led me to this agency. And the agency was like, hey, don't do anything. Just go with us. We'll get you a deal. We'll go pitch all the networks. And I was in the lobby in the parking lot at ABC. And it was like our third meeting. And Jeff Gaspin from NBC called. He was the president of NBC, and was like, I love that kid. I don't know what he does or where he came from, but whatever he did to that show, I want him to come over here and work for us and do that to our shows here.
Brant,
and
what was it that you did to that show? And what did that show ever get off? Would we know what that show was?
No, hell no.
So what was it? What was so spectacular that you did that just really,
Well, so it was a time in television. It was a time in television where you could walk in and say, okay, here's the idea. We want to take 10 single women and put them in a house with one single rich guy, and we'll make a TV show. And the network would go, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. Let's try that. Okay. That was the time.
Okay.
From my perspective, what I had done is I had borrowed, begged, and stolen the money to go make the television show I had made. Then when I couldn't sell it, I thought, oh, it's because I have to do more of it. So I went and filmed more of it. Then I couldn't afford to edit it. So I went and made these little, like, almost like booklet guidebooks that were like, here's what happened. Here's how the story played. Here's how the games played, right? So I could show people, like, I'm not just making it up. I actually did this, right? And I laid it all out. And so when I went into the room, two things. One is I had all this tape. I had all this material and details. It was so beautifully put together and so meticulous because I had been there and worked on it so much and I was so desperate. And two, when producers walk into pitch a television show, they're like, yeah, I would love to try this. I just spent a year and a half sacrificing everything in my life, like trying to get somebody to invest in my idea, or I wouldn't be able to eat that week. Like, I knew how to pitch that idea. And so when I walked in the room, the network presidents were like, whoa, who is this guy? And that was amazing. And so and my agent was like, yeah, he's amazing. And he's going to be off the market if you don't snap him up. And then craziness goes from there. And then, people are like, who? What's his name? I don't remember him, but we want him too. Like, that was the attitude.
Well, that's how it works, right? Once you get in the zone, then everybody wants you, and it's like you're the hot commodity. So your first job was as a producer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was the head of development of a television production company. And it was crazy because what happened was NBC ended up buying the show because they said, hey, we want to hire him.
So they did buy the show.
Yeah, the agent said, well, he's not available. He's going where the show is. We got lots of offers on that. So they're like, well, we'll take the show too. So they bought the show. We developed the show. Did a pilot, never ended up going to series. But so then I was the guy who just moved to Los Angeles, had this great idea. Every network president was super impressed with, and had an NBC pilot. So getting a job, I didn't know at the time, but getting a job at that point, very easy to do because every production company wanted that because they would get to produce the pilot. So I got this big fancy job as the head of development for this company. And I went to work, and my agent was like, listen, you have a reputation now of having this incredibly detailed, amazing pitch. You have to do that every single time you get in a room. That can be who you are. Otherwise, you're just a random person. And so he forced me to take every pitch to the next level and to think it through and to be super detailed and to never walk into the room casual and just to be prepared and to impress. And that worked really well for me at that time because everybody else was going casual. Everybody else was going the opposite direction. They were just like, yeah, we have sort of an idea. Haven't really thought it out yet, but we got a cool title. What do you think? And I was the total opposite. I had come in with as much detail as I possibly could.
Detail and also passion. Do you think that that's also what hooked them?
I mean, a little bit, but listen, and I have an entire thing that I talk about on stage a lot about passion, and I teach this.
And yeah,
is that passion is a very dangerous tightrope to walk, right? It's great because you need it, but it can bring the focus towards you instead of your project, which is bad. And passion without promotion is the most important thing. And a lot of times people confuse passion and promotion. And passion is really about the value you bring. If you have real confidence in the value you're bringing, you'll be passionate about it.
Right.
But more importantly, it's that when you're passionate about something and it's unjustified in the other person's eyes, it ruins you for them. And that would happen to me a lot of times when someone would come pitch me a television idea and they were so excited about it and so passionate about it. They thought this was the greatest thing ever. And then you hear the idea and it's like, it's a stupid idea that'll never get on TV, which, by the way, I pitch a ton of those too. Mm-hmm. But it just shows me that you don't know the difference between a good idea and a bad idea. It's because you're passionate. If you're super passionate about this, oh my God, I can't have you work for me, or I'm not interested in having you pitch me anymore. So it's very dangerous in that sense. But I think what I had learned when I was raising money in sort of a desperate fashion, where it's like, I need to get someone to put $5,000 into this company or I'm going to starve, is that when you go into that living room for that pitch, you have to be able to convey the information without being desperate. You can't let someone know how desperately you need it. And it trained me on how to not be salesy and how to not be pushy. And that was a huge advantage in this marketplace because people are very sensitive to it. And Hollywood is a very dull marketplace. It is not an exciting, hey, let's do lunch. That's social. Not the business of Hollywood is very straight. It is very straight, very boring, very simple. It is not flashy. It is not Madison Avenue pitching, campaigns to Coca-Cola. It's not like that. It's very straight and very mundane in the process. So you have to be careful that you don't overblow your sort of quote unquote passion trying to look excited about something just for the sake of looking excited.
Right. I mean, that's human nature, and that kind of goes across the board on almost any business. I mean, like, I coach real estate agents. We call it commission breath. If you have commission breath, you're going to repel you're going to repel your seller or your buyer. So, yeah. I'm almost done, just like the tail end of your book, The 3-Minute Rule. And you do talk about the passion in there. And you do talk about, correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of developed that when you were pitching The Biggest Loser. Is that when you developed the 3-minute rule?
Yeah, there's sort of a 3-part arc towards that. The first one was a meeting at CBS, and I was in the lobby, and out of the pitch room walked Simon Cowell. And I remember this sort of dread came over me, like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to follow Simon Cowell into a pitch meeting. Like, this sucks. And so he and I are jibber jabbering, and I see him looking over my shoulder, smiling, and I turn around, and it's Mark Burnett walks in the room. And it's like, oh my God, and now Mark Burnett's following me in there. So I'm wedged between these two superstars. And today I am still just as minuscule as I was back then compared to them. So it was an awful feeling. And I actually started to get like almost a form of anxiety or like a panic attack, almost thinking like, oh my God, what am I going to say to the president of the network here to impress them or to dazzle them or to small talk? Like what can I possibly do? Like I shouldn't even be in this room. So you get all swept up in that. And I remember thinking like, I got to get out of here as fast as possible and like not embarrass myself. So I came into that room and I was like, here's what the show is. Here's how the show works. Here's why we think it's great for CBS. And here's how we're going to produce it. And that was it. And I was in and out of that room in like 9.5 minutes. And my agent was like, that was the best pitch I've ever seen. And they bought the show. And I was like, oh, I got to use that more often. And I found that when I started doing that and I got better responses, and I started to get this reputation very quickly of having the best pitches in town and buyers moving things in their schedule because like, oh, if Brant's coming in, it'll be fast. It'll be great. It'll be a good pitch. And I was like, I'm not working very hard here. Like what's happening? So that was that part.
Well, hang on. Let me ask you one question. Yeah. So that was kind of like on the spot. You just pitched it under 9 minutes. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't something that you had thought about
No, it was,
It was just something because you wanted to get out of there.
I just ditched everything else that I was going to say. I ditched everything else about the pitch, and I just went right to the core elements.
Okay.
Here's what the show is.
Yep.
Here's how the show works.
Right.
Here's why it's great for CBS, and here's how we're going to produce it different than anybody else. And that was it.
Okay.
And I was like, all the sponsorship stuff and the background and the marketing and the size of the, I didn't tell you any of that because I was like, these guys know that. Like, they don't need me.
Exactly.
And it was like, oh, it started to work really well.
And so you realized you were onto something then.
Yeah. And then that, you know, in that same time period when I was developing Extreme Makeover Weight Loss Edition, it was a great show that was unbelievably complicated. And it came from The Biggest Loser, and it was just so complicated that we just could not explain it to anybody effectively. And we were going back and forth. And it was, you know, normally it's 2 weeks to take a show idea before it's ready into the edit bay, making it real, right? And we were 6, 8, 10 weeks along, just not being able to get it. And every time I'd pitch it to somebody, they'd be like, I don't understand. I don't get it. And so I had actually remember seeing just these Post-it notes that I was doing on the wall and just seeing a group of these Post-it notes, just 1 and 2 words at a time. And it was like, too big for The Biggest Loser, 1 year, you know, most weight loss in TV. And I remember thinking like, I'm overthinking this all. Like, and so I literally called the head of ABC and I said, I need to come see you today. Like, you've got to let me in. I'll wait. And I waited in his lobby for more than an hour. And I said, I need 5 minutes. And he was like, fine, you get 5 minutes. And I put this tape on his desk. And I was like, I remember saying, you know, I don't even know if we can produce this show in time for you to still keep your job. Like, you might be out of a job by the time this show is ready. It's going to take more than a year to produce, but it's contestants too big for The Biggest Loser. We follow them for an entire year. Each individual episode is 1 year of weight loss condensed into 1 hour. It will be the biggest transformation in television every single week. Watch this tape. Let me know. And that was basically the pitch. It was barely 3 minutes long. And I just remember that the combination between, you know, here's how I break down an idea in these 4 categories and simplify the message. Those 2 things, when they came together, it changed my entire television career. I sold so many shows. I mean, I went on a run there for almost 10 years where it was just like, there was a time when we went out with 13 straight shows. They all sold 13 in a row. It was an amazing run.
So, and yeah, go ahead.
That was because of that system more than anything. Yeah, some of them were good. They were good ideas. That's all great. But the fact was I was able to pitch more. I was able to pitch more often. People wanted me in the room more. I was able to convey the ideas faster, more effectively. I got people more engaged. And that just, you know, statistically speaking, just adds up.
Right. Exactly. And what year was that?
Oh, man. 2010.
Really?
9,
okay.
8.
So then because of that, you decided to write the 3-minute rule.
Yeah. So from there, like, I never thought much about it. And it was a random meeting with an investment banker that asked me, like, can you teach my clients to do what you do? He saw me pitching a television show idea at a bar. And I was like, I don't think so. And he's like, no, I don't mean TV. I mean, like, my public company CEO clients. Can you teach them to pitch their company without putting people to sleep? And I was like, I don't know. So I happened to be in Florida. He had a conference in Florida. I went there. I saw an oil and gas guy. It was the worst thing I'd ever seen in my life. It's 20 minutes of the most pain I've ever seen anybody go through trying to pitch this idea. And I was like, I think I could probably help you. Like, I don't know anything about oil and gas, but I think I can help you. And so I helped the guy, and he called me with a voicemail. And he basically said, like, you've changed my life. Stock's up. My wife thinks you put something in my drink. I've never been so excited to go out and talk to people. I'll never forget what you've done for me. And I was just like, oh, like, no network president has ever said anything like that to me before. My ego was like, I'd like to have more of that, you know? And it was just like, holy crap. And so then the investment banker guy was like, hey, I got other clients that you could really use you. And it started from there. And the 3-minute rule was what we used to talk about in the edit bay. Like, nothing can leave this edit bay that's more than 3 minutes long.
So at that point, so you started working with other businesses, showing them how to do it. Yeah. Are you still completely involved in the film business? Because I mean, you were.
Yeah, day to day. It was like my day-to-day job, and I'd get all these. And I always make the joke: you want to know how to drive your consulting prices off? Just say no to everything. And I was like, I can't come to Texas on a Tuesday. I have a job. Like,
right, exactly.
So eventually, it'd be like it was, big clients and big opportunities and really cool stuff. And I would go and I would work and I'd coach and I'd And what I found was I was making a real difference, like a real impact, because I understood the process of storytelling so intimately,
Mhm.
and they understood their business so intimately. And the convergence of those two things was really powerful. And I just naturally have a very good way of being able to take information from my sort of knowledge and convey it into your understanding. I can make you understand what I want you to understand. And that's Hollywood storytelling at its core. And when you can do that and business on a big scale, it just changed things. And for me, I was just like, this is kind of what I want to do more of. And so I started taking a little bit step back from TV. I sold my production company and then I started another one. And at some point I was like, I really like this. And I worked with a lot of really big companies, and I did the NFL and the San Francisco 49ers, and I helped them get their stadium and get WrestleMania at the stadium. And just that experience of doing it at a really high level
Yes,
just
you talked about
made
that
me
in your book.
realize that, like, the phrase I use is that no one has all their shit together. People have lots of their shit together, but nobody has it all together.
Right,
And
exactly.
so I just was able to focus on what I did really well and find real value. And it's just been really exciting to help people change the their perspective on what's possible changes, because now they understand how to explain and to convey and to connect with people. And I've seen so many companies and CEOs frustrated because they have such good ideas. They have such good ability, but they can't make other people understand that. Startups and these biotech companies, and it's like they believe in their products so much and they just can't. There's just such frustration that other people don't see it the way they do. And when I can help them unlock that, it's like, oh, hey, that's really exciting.
Well, exactly. And especially in this day and age, I mean, you even said in your book that we have a attention span of like 8 seconds, and a
Yeah,
goldfish
of
has
course.
the attention span of 9 seconds. A goldfish has more of an attention span than we do, right? And, so what you're basically saying is you could have a great product or service, and if you cannot relay that, that in
Oh,
marketing and everything else, I mean, that's just, it's going to be dead in the water, right?
yeah.
And sometimes you can just over talk things. And I remember when I wrote my first book, people would say, what was it about? And it would take me probably 5-10 minutes to say what it was about. And the more I talked, the more I kept going off into a ditch. I'm like, well, that's not what I
Oh,
meant. I
yeah.
kind of meant this. And they're like, do you know what you're talking about? In fact, what you were talking about, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when you were talking about PowerPoint slides, you're saying how people overuse PowerPoint slides. And, if you don't know what those are first people that don't know what you're talking about. I mean, you should know what you're talking about. That
Yeah.
should be just kind of like a reference point. And I think that that's really, just being a lot more concise, not only for the person that you're pitching to, but for yourself. Because if you don't feel that you are that connected to it and that you can sell it in three minutes, your self-esteem is going to kind of go down
Yeah.
the toilet with it, right?
Yep. And it's a little bit like, it's like trying to run a race wearing the wrong equipment and dragging chains and being attached to different ropes and things pulling behind you. And it's like, yeah, you could still get there. It's just,
Right.
you don't know why it's so slow and why it's so difficult. And like, what'll happen is, yeah, I can come in and cut all that baggage away and figure it out. And then you start running and then you get excited because you're running faster, and then you
Exactly.
run even faster. And that's what I find happens, is that the frustration of not being able to convince people and feeling like you're always trying to have to sell, when I can get that turned around, all of a sudden it's like they become more excited, they become more knowledgeable, they become more effective, they all the tools start coming together. It's like, it's why the rich get richer. It's like, because they have all the tools, and it's like, yeah. And that for me is just, it's far more rewarding than television. And the last 5 years of my career in TV was a lot of just making and selling widgets. Like, once you get to a certain point, it's not about the money anymore. And I have a pretty good sized credit list, so that's not going to change my life. I still haven't won an Emmy, so I'm assuming I'm not going to get one. Like, you accept those things. You're like, whatever,
Right.
like, what am I doing this for? And that was it was a difficult process. And what I found was I was getting so much more value in my life out of working outside of television and working outside of entertainment and working with companies and working with CEOs and coaching, that it just became more of a drive. And when I finally decided to retire from the day-to-day of television and write the book, it was like, it was a big moment, and I was definitely ready for it.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, and the little time that I spent talking to you yesterday, I completely felt that about you. I mean, you're a lot like me in that, you know, my purpose is to help other people however best I can serve. So this is something that you've just like really locked into, and it goes all the way across the board. It's not just entertainment. It can be
Yeah.
any businesses. You know, you've been working with companies that are tremendous, but you also worked with companies that are just starting out,
Oh
right?
yeah, and sometimes if you ask my assistant, I'm all over the place. Like I get a lot of submissions and asking for help with stuff, and I'll just pick random one. I'll just hear a story, and I was like, oh yeah, get me her on the phone. I want to talk to her. And my
Okay.
assistant be
Yes.
like, what? And I'll be like, yeah, yeah. And I was
Right.
like, okay.
So,
And
so,
it's just
so
fun.
anybody that's watching, if they go, I need his help. I
Yeah.
mean, should we just,
Yeah, listen,
what's
always
the
reach
best
out. There's
reach
some
out?
way. Who knows? I mean, listen, I was 6 months ago, I was in St. Petersburg, Florida with a cupcake shop because she wrote me a letter. My assistant said to her, oh man, I love your story. What I would do is I would write Brant a letter directly. He has a soft spot for this kind of stuff. And sure enough, I got this letter and I was like, I want to help this lady. So I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida at her cupcake shop.
I
You're
saw
like,
that on Instagram. They got
yeah,
delivered,
I
right?
know.
Is that the
Well,
mini cupcake one?
yes.
Oh,
So
that's
six
so
months
nice.
before that, I was down there helping her restructure and reconstitute her business. And it was like, I remember thinking at the time, it's like, why am I doing this again? Like, what am I doing? Like, I want to save every puppy that comes in, right? Like, I get it. But 10 minutes after being there, I'm like, I love this one. I love this woman. She's amazing. And like, she had already got bad advice and she was already like confused about what to do. And I was like, no, get rid of all that. And I was like, listen, you can't afford to hire me anymore. Like, this is it. So whatever I'm saying, I'm only saying to you because it's the best version. I just laid it all out. I told her exactly what and how to do it and get rid of this. And this is stupid. And who told you to do that? That's ridiculous. This is where your money, the mini cupcakes and everybody. And it was such an eye opening for her. And it was just like amazing. And now they're getting to ship them. And it was just like that happens where
Yeah.
it's just like, oh man.
Well, and how refreshing is that? Because normally, let's be honest, somebody that reaches your level, especially in the entertainment business, you know, my family is in the entertainment business as
Yeah.
well. I mean, it's like you're untouchable, no thank you, only coming in through the back door. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's like I said, it's very refreshing, and it's just
Well, and I've been there, right? Like Tony Robbins is a good friend of mine, and he has this thing. It's $1 million to hire him to coach, right? And so I was always like, I gotta get my prices up to some ridiculous level so I can say that too, right? And so there was a point, at the beginning of the year where it was like, it's 6 figures, and you realize like the only people that you can get in that realm don't need you, and the companies that hired me didn't really
ooh,
need me. They
ooh,
wanted
say
it.
that again. I love that. That is
Yeah.
so true. The people that can afford you don't need you because
No.
they can find somebody else. They can hire a whole team just to do it, and they can step
Yeah.
back from the situation and just take the credit,
Yeah.
right?
And what you find is if you can get to that level or any level, whatever level you're at, the money doesn't matter anymore,
Yeah.
right? If you're
Right.
charging a $1,000 a month, that means that $1,000 a month doesn't mean that much to you. If you're charging $100,000, it doesn't mean that much. And that's what and same with Tony. Like, he charges $1 million. He doesn't need $1 million. So it's
Right.
like, why are you doing it? You're doing it for someone who doesn't need you. Like, I get the ego of it is important. Like, now I have fancy logos I can put on my website and whatever. Like, that's real. It's a real thing. You want credit. You want social proof. I wanted to work for Fortune 100 companies. I like that. So I would take those calls first, and I would strive to get those gigs. And then eventually you're like, wait a second. That's exactly what I was doing in television. Like, I'm chasing around credits and money. And like, I always make the joke, like, it's not private jet money. Like, that's the thing. Like, at a certain level, you're like, wait a minute. Like, I already have TVs in the house. Like, I got a garage full of cars. Like,
Exactly.
I'm not buying a jet. So what am I doing this for? Right? Like, I'm never getting private jet money. So what am I doing this for? And
Right.
I struggled with that. And so then I started to try to find ways to do more small businesses, do more startups, do more sort of entrepreneurial based things. I did more live calls. I started giving away more information. I started reaching out. Like, that was better. I'm still struggling because the inflows a lot. So I don't really, I bounce around a lot, but
Mhm.
I'm trying to just find out what the best version. So now it's sort of like, tell me your story. If I can really help, we can talk. If not, I can do something for you. Let me give you some advice, like whatever. I
Right.
figure it out as I go.
And it's something that I I have such conviction that, I think that we've done things backwards, and I think we've been taught backwards, that go after, what will provide a lot of money, not what you love. And I believe the opposite. If you really have a passion for something, go for it, 100%. And there are people out there. I think people are shifting. I think, my purpose is to serve other people. I think that really, if you peel back the layers of everybody, that's what we're really all made of. If you strip away the ego and you strip away the insecurity and all that, that's really what we're all made of. And more people like you that come forward doing that, it's gonna, I think, gonna cause a ripple effect, which is fantastic.
Yeah. It's been interesting.
So tell me about Reject Average.
Well, that sort of coincided with all of this, as I got to a point where I was like, what do I do? The way it went down was like this. I was driving on the 405. I saw a guy with jet skis on a trailer. I was like, when was the last time I went jet skiing? Like, I like jet skiing. It's like 10 years probably. Everybody likes jet skiing. Why haven't I been jet skiing? And I was like, I don't have any friends that have jet skis. Like, where am I going to go jet skiing with who? Like, this is never going to happen. And so I got a little bit like crazy about that, thinking like, I may never ride a jet ski again unless I figure this out. So I went, found a place to rent them. I rented 5 jet skis. I sent some emails out to my friends. I was like, hey, I rented jet skis. You want to come jet ski? And I had like 30 people respond to me like, yeah, I'd love to. So we went. And then I remember it was very specific. It was the head of a very large network. Emailed me like, oh man, that looks so much fun on your social. Next time you go, let me know. I'd love to go. And I was like, oh man, I'd like to spend time with this guy. He runs a big network. I was like, well, I'm going next weekend. Oh, great. So he came, I rented 10 jet skis. And I just realized that, like, wait a minute. So if I want to go do something fun, all I got to do is plan it ahead of time. And then I just invite people and people will show up. Okay, well, I'd like to go helicopter skiing. Wing. And so I just sort of started this executive travel and adventure club through my nonprofit. And I just basically come up with ideas of fun things to do. And I just plan it out and I invite people and I just go do them. And it's a way to sort of get people out of their comfort zones and to do stuff that we always would think we would do when we had time, energy, and money to do, right? And then you never do it. And I don't know how many, anybody listening know, like, everybody knows wealthy, successful people that don't do anything, don't have any fun, don't go out. They're still working. Why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting to the point where I was worried that might be sort of my MO. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I want to, like, I've worked really hard. Now I want to be able to go jet ski. And like, the fact that I didn't have friends to go do it with made me crazy. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? Just keep working. So now I am in what's called the relentless pursuit of enjoyment, where I just try to find things to do that are really, really fun almost every weekend. We did 33 adventures last year. We would have done 41 this year. Probably do 40 next year.
How important do you think it is to get uncomfortable?
I mean, uncomfortable in a fun setting. Like my friend Jesse does the crazy like experiences where you got to run up the hills and it's like, the Iron Man kind of feeling, and that's the uncomfortable. I'm like, yeah, I'm not really like that. I'm like, let's rent exotic cars and go drive up the coast, or let's go off-roading to Las Vegas. Like, I like fun, uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I'm more in the mode of like, why are you doing this? Why are you working so hard? What are you saving for? What are you developing for? What do you want out of life? What are you expecting? It's like, okay, you're putting in time and energy and resources to create something for yourself, but you got to go spend those at some point. And exactly. I have a lot of people that don't do that. And I was like, well, why are you working so hard? If you're not going to be, what are you going to wait till you're 72 and then do what? Like,
well, and you can't take it with you, right?
Right. And it's just a more of like, and I do a lot of high intensity coaching. So I worked with the Clippers on their intensity training, and this whole thing I've called matching intensity, where it's like people feel success and fulfillment and achievement and the thrill of setting a target and knocking a target down. They feel that in the office, and their office life becomes a high intensity lifestyle. And then they look at things outside the office as a husband, a wife, a father, as a best friend, as recreation. They look at that as downtime. And so they train themselves to have this gap in intensity.
Yes.
If you ask any professional sports team, they don't show up at the game and play up here intensity and then come to practice and go down here. That's not the way your physiologically works. So I sort of coach and I train people how to have the high intensity at the office, but how would you have that same intensity in your personal life? And when people ask me like, don't you ever take a day off? I was like, yes. And I crush it when I do. Like if there was a prize for who had the best day sitting by the pool, like I'd be in the top 3. I'd be on the podium finish. Right. And so I try to bring that intensity to my relationships, to my work, so that it's part of who I am physiologically, and not just, oh, I only feel success because I'm doing work stuff. I can feel success as a dad or as a husband or as a guy having a great weekend. I have come back from many of my weekend trips, and anybody who's been on one will tell you, and you get back and you're like, I just won the weekend. I just won. Like if there was a trophy, it'd be here waiting for me because I just won. And that's a feeling that I try to mimic across all elements.
And unfortunately, a lot of the people, it's the opposite. They live for the weekends. Okay. Yeah. It's like, can't wait. I get up. I can't wait till I get home to sit on the couch and do nothing or wait for the weekend, right? There's this severe break from work, and then I get home. And you know what? My feeling is, I think everybody's goal should be, it should be one even flow throughout the day. Bring yourself completely. Intensity. Bring yourself in your relationships. Be authentic. Be who you are. Speak your mind. Speak your truth. You know, be curious, right? I mean, don't just shut down. You know, don't divide your life. Let it just kind
excellence. Excellence for me is an all-time thing. I like to just be great and have fun and do well at everything I do. I try, and I bring that to all the ideas. And like, if anything I'm going to do, I try to make it the best thing. And it's funny, you know, one of the things I'm doing with these 7-foot basketball players is I'm having this, I play the 7-step game, and I don't spoil if anybody's ever going to come to one of my seminars, if we ever have one of these things live and stage, but I do what's called the 7-step contest. And I'll tell everybody, okay, I got $100 or $1,000 or whatever it is. And we're going to have 7 steps. We're all going to line up at the front of the stage, and you get 7 steps to walk across the front of the stage. And with the Clippers, it was upstairs. And whoever walks the 7 best steps gets the money. That's it. You only get 7. And I always say this. I say, now listen, there's a lot of us here in the audience, so we're going to have to go quickly. So right now I need you to think about what you're going to do, because you can't get up here and then like waste time trying to figure out how to make it great, you know? But whoever enjoys this, whoever just nails it, whoever does the best, you know, wins. So, all right. So everybody plan what you're going to do. And so now you see the audience, right? And they have their eyes closed and their chests come up and they start smiling. And it's like, and so then it's like, listen, we're not having a contest. I was just making that up. But I want you to think about how your brain changed the second you thought it was a contest to take 7 bloody steps. Everything about you, you're lifting up, you're thinking about it. You get your stroll on, and in your mind, you're like, I think I can walk and these basketball players are walking up these 7 steps upstairs. Who's going to walk this flight of stairs the best? And I actually made them do it, which was the funny part. And so then I would say, like, and for these guys it was the valet, but I would say to you, if you're going to be, there's not a lot of restaurants right now, but if you're going to be at a restaurant, it's like, if there was a prize, the waitress, like, she gets to give $1,000 prize to the best customer of the day. Like, what would you do to win? Like, what would you do? Would you smile? Would you talk? Would you be like, imagine if you went most of the things in your day like that, where it's like, okay, I'm driving to the tire store. Like, if there was a prize for who had the best 21-minute drive, what would I do? How would I win that prize? If it was the next 20 minutes in a car, someone's getting a prize for being the best at it. Like, exactly. I'd smile. Like, and what you do is it's weird, but it doesn't take long before you're like, oh, my body knows how to feel like this. I know how to feel like
that's fun. Just it. Consistency. If you practice that, you know, because I've said this so many times, I've never been that person that wakes up in the morning. Oh, I can't wait to start my day, right? I have to do a morning routine with journaling, with affirmations. I've been doing it now consistently is the key word, long enough that I actually now waking up, not with negative thoughts, with like excited about the day. I mean, when I can't sleep it's because I'm excited about all the things I get to do during the day. So it's, I mean, this is your life. I mean, you have, you know, you're the one who said it, wasn't it? I might be getting you confused. Didn't you say, what did you say about the end of your life? Wasn't it you? God, I'm researching a lot of people this week. I got 4 interviews. Okay, maybe it wasn't you. Okay, so anyway, for getting back to your book just for a second, you've got to get going. This book, it really is for everybody. It's
Oh my God.
for,
Yeah.
you know, like I said, I coach real estate agents. It's mandatory, not that I can't put a gun to their head, but I strongly suggest that they all do it. I mean, you know, we've been talking about value proposition. Why
Yeah.
you? Why should I buy for you? Why should you list my house? I mean, you better have a value proposition, because otherwise, in the way that the world is going forward, you know, why not be your best, right?
Yeah. And you know, the book is turned into a very clear guide on how to take anything of value about your business, product, or service and convey it clearly and concisely in 3 minutes or less.
Mhm.
And what you'll find is it really is a step-by-step. It'll walk you through exactly how to take what you want to say and convert it into only what needs to be said.
Needs to be said.
And that is
Exactly.
such a huge advantage.
Yes.
And it takes the years of storytelling and the years of selling television in Hollywood and puts it in a formula that anybody can use in any business. And just the communication style alone from reading it, you'll be like, okay, I know what I've been doing wrong. I know how to change things. And you'll find people understand you. It's what I call the foundation of understanding. The reason why you believe in what you do or you're passionate about your business or product is because you understand it so well. You know all the nuances, you know all the details. And if you could just make other people understand that the same way you do, they'd have to see the value that you do as well. And it's like I say on stage all the time, where, you know, the difference between a great screenplay and a really terrible screenplay is nothing in the minds of the people that write them. The guy who wrote the crappy screenplay, he knows every character, he knows every twist, he knows the motivations, he knows what's happening, he knows why this story's going this way, he knows how all of these things are coming together, what the bad guy's doing. He knows it so intimately, he loves it. It's amazing, right? The difference between that and a great screenplay is that Aaron Sorkin can make you understand the characters and the motivations and the twists the same way he does it. You
Yes.
see it the same way he saw it, and that's why it's so good.
Exactly. And it's not just enough to know it in your head, because for years I would know something in my head, but then trying to articulate it,
Yeah.
whole other story. So,
Whole other story.
right? Whole other story.
Yeah.
And then what do you end up looking like? Well, I know what I'm trying to say. Come back when you do.
That's right. Yeah. And real estate's an interesting world because, and I've done quite a bit of consulting in that space, you know, it's a lot of value as it relates to facts and figures. Like, people don't want to be sold stuff, and you have to be really careful in that industry, because if you make people feel like you're selling them, they
Yeah,
will resist and they will recoil. And
exactly.
so being able to convey the information clearly and concisely that they can start to apply the value without sort of coloring it with promotion is a very, very powerful technique.
Exactly.
And works really well in that situation.
Yeah. Well, listen, pleasure having you on. What's the best way to get a hold of you, Brant?
I'm easy to find. 3minuterule.com has all my contacts. I'm at Brant Pinvidic and all those social things. Easy to find. Always happy to chat and figure out what's going on with people and trying to help where I can.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to be your first call.
I love it.
All right, Brant, thanks. And thank you for watching. We will see you next week.